morning, my dear subscribers. You're welcome to Sunlight Grant channel, where we give you the latest of the UAAG disbursement funding. In case you're new on my channel, please don't forget to click on the notification bell and subscribe. In case we drop new videos, you'll be highly updated.
There is tendency of people doubting the authenticity of such an activity. However, delay is always a blessing in disguise. Yes, it's disturbing while the grant handlers are no more communicating to the masses. The UAAG country director, Apostle Ambassador Ken Wakama, the last time he communicated is about 5 or 6 months ago. Just like the AGPGN president, Comrade Abdul, is almost about 5 or 6 months since he communicated last to the masses. It's disturbing why the stakeholders of disbursement resorted into a state of graveyard silence, deafening silence, for an activity that made repeated interaction and update to the partners. And this formed part of the reason why people think there's no possibility of disbursement or there's no fund anywhere. However, before believing that disbursement is going to take place before Christmas, let's review some of the activities that span through scores of days ago. We were told on 28th and 29th November, disbursement is going to start and continue in the first week of December. At the first week of December, we were told that the money is to be credited into 4 major accounts of grant stakeholders. We were told that the money will drop into AGPGN account, the UAAG account, Sanctuary Wealth account, Theobarth account, Supreme account, to be disbursed to their own NGOs. And at that point, the date 8, 9, 10 to 12 of December was fixed for disbursement to take place. Nobody expected that Wednesday and Thursday of last week should have gone by without disbursement. And we are here already in the new week, the 3rd week, spanning from the 16th of December 2024. And disbursements haven't still taken place. What actually went wrong? According to feedback from grant stakeholders, between Wednesday and Thursday, where disbursement should have taken place, it was discovered that a certain document or letter need to be received from the World Bank and the IMF, and authorities from the World Bank were to be here in Nigeria to monitor or supervise the disbursement process. And truly, the authorities arrived in Nigeria according to this source, but the acknowledgement letter was not gotten. Therefore, a letter was forwarded to the World Bank for this acknowledgement letter, and between Thursday and Friday, it was confirmed that the letter has been delivered back to the grant handler from the World Bank and the IMF. But at that point, there was nothing much they could have done since it was a weekend. That is from one information source. Another information source holds that there are disagreements between the grant stakeholders on who should be the arrowhead NGO to disburse this money to the masses or to all other grant handlers. There is a disagreement between the grant stakeholders on who should be the mandated non-governmental organizations to disburse these grants to everyone else. An activity that is connected to being greedy. It is in that same week that the grant ecosystem witnessed an eruption of fisticuff conflict in the ranks of the UAAG, the Power of Five, Iron Lady, Pascal Anyanwu, and some authorities in the UAAG. This source of information holds that there are a certain number of NGOs that should be allocated to all these grant stakeholders, but those numbers have not been allocated to them. It's a scenario of dissatisfaction on allocation of slots to the grant stakeholders, and a scenario of if I am not treated in a certain specific way, or if I'm not the one to disburse this grant, nobody else should, or if I'm not allocated to a certain number of NGOs, let the process come to a halt. What is disturbing is that greed, self-centeredness, group interest, cabal interest have set in this grant disbursement. At the time, everyone were worried that approval is not given by the government. Now, finally, government has granted approval according to information sources. But the resistance, but the delay now is caused by the grant stakeholders. And when you look at the profile of these people fighting to domicile this power, to monopolize this power, they are purely apostles, pastors, evangelists, archbishops, bishops, clergies, fighting for self-glory. If it's not you, let it stop. If it is not you, nobody else. Sometimes one can't help but question what this Christianity is about, if it's not sacrifice. Although we understand that most of the people parading themselves as clergies, pastors, apostles, bishops, reverends, archbishops, most of them are not called to represent this status. They understand that Nigeria recognizes titles, respects titles, and they use money to acquire these statuses for themselves, not to live according to Christ. There's nobody called by God who will demonstrate this high level of materiality or carnal interest or desire in this ecosystem. Nobody called by God will petition to stop the process because his interest is not satisfied or requirements are not fulfilled. Nobody called by God will say, without me, there's nobody else. Even after being aware that the hope, the life, the sustenance, the growth and progress of the NGO CEOs and beneficiaries in this ecosystem hangs on this disbursement. These grant stakeholders are ready to sabotage or frustrate the entire disbursement activity without caring about that man or woman who was divorced because of this grant, or without caring about those church owners, those pastors in their respective churches who have lost their members because of these grants, without caring about those community leaders who have lost their integrity and reputation as a result of this grants process. Yes, I'm aware of some church owners who mobilized their members during the era of SEM to create an account with the commercial banks in expectation of money dropping to those accounts. After waiting for a while, money did not drop. What do you think those members were feeling about the church pastors? And they spent some monies in creating this account. Some even donated heavily to assist the church owners in subscribing for this grant, and it never come by. Some of them understand what they